Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hand of Fate 2. So, we've been through this one campaign, which is the only campaign that I can actually even play, despite the fact that there's DLC here that I've purchased. And on the second failure, it just straight up told me to turn on easy mode, and I agree with that. Weirdly, I just don't feel like this is the kind of game that benefits from making the action sequences more difficult, which I recall, or I vaguely recall, when playing the first game that the action sequences were a little too difficult anyways. So what do I benefit from by moving closer to eavesdrop? Now, if you succeed, you just hear them, and by doing that, maybe then you can have the 3 assistive characters fight for you. But I don't think you actually need the 3 of toil characters. I don't think you need to sneak closer to listen to them, and I think there's just a room for failure there for no reason. So it might always be wise to just stay back, and then you'll get to this decision. And we haven't tried offer help, but warn them it won't come for free. We have no gold, streaks, terrified farmers, but half our crop is yours if you protect us. So okay, let's go ahead and accept that instead of ask for more. Although if we end up playing this a 4th time, we'll ask for more. Draw your weapon with practice skills. Well, you hear the leader's voice. You lads, I'll handle this. I'll meet you when you're done. So pretty much regardless of what decision you make, you still end up in a fight here. And your decisions will only really affect whether you have 3 fighters with you. Like, we have this 7 of a 7 there, but I don't know what it takes to actually trigger that 7 out of 7. Like, I'm trying to press every button, and it didn't seem like it did anything. With the brigands to patch, the farmers turn to you. I hope the price doesn't prove too high. If the next harvest comes short, we'll starve regardless. So in that we get 7 food and 5 food, and honestly, that's probably more food than you really need. And on easy mode, you can see I took considerably less damage there. I'm at like 97 out of 100 health now. Yeah. So let's take the shield this time. Just because.
It's a thing you put in front of you so people don't hit you. I'm sure you can work it out.
So now we have a 10 defense versus a 4 defense shield, but does the shield reduce the amount of damage you take when you are not pressing the defend button? This is what I'm trying to say here. Let's see. Neither one of these choices really matter. You still end up to a fight. You could give them all your food and gold. Which, let's see. If I gave them all my food, wouldn't I start starving? Let's try that. What? Stutters a confused would-be mugger as you hand over your food and gold. No one ever gives us their stuff. What do we do now? Asks one. Let's fight her anyway. They did manage to put her there instead of him, or M, since we can choose a gender of the character we're playing. Not that it seems like it really matters. It's been a while since we've had a good stabbing. So I had like 17 food and 10 gold. Let's see if we get anything more than that back, because we tried to avoid fighting. Or if we lose some just because we took the coward way out. And see, when we load into this section, it's going to show off this piece of equipment as if that's supposed to be really that special. And I guess eventually maybe we'll get special pieces of equipment that would benefit from this highlight. But having done this 3 times over now, this being the 3rd time, like I'm pressing the left trigger and nothing is happening. I'm pressing the left bump and nothing is happening. Maybe I need to press the right trigger. But on easy mode, these guys are falling way easier, and I appreciate that, because I really don't want to waste my time playing huge amounts of the tabletop game experience to then lose in the final battles with the boss fights. You pick through the bodies and restore your goods to your travel bag. So I have 13 and 10. With the battle resolved, the thief leader nods in approval. He holds out his hands, sensing your anger. He raises his hands in surrender. Wait, let's not do this. Let's go ahead and skip all of this dialogue. Picking different symbols seems to do nothing. Unless it's affecting where, like, your luck or how many dice you roll, but it doesn't seem like it's the case. And in this first setup, we do the character customization again. If this was supposed to change something as far as choosing an amulet, it's gonna be something that changes like way down the road. Alright, so we'll go ahead and finish and just save time here. It seems like he always says you're from Sutherland, either because I'm always picking the same skin color of the character, or maybe it always says Sutherland. I probably should have changed the skin color just to see if that gives us a slightly different outcome. What still is defeating me though is these arm wrestling championships. Like, first throws, getting 10 is fine, but there is weirdly going to be this need to either do arm wrestling again in a later story or come back and do this event later to get that shiny metal piece, whatever that shiny metal piece is worth. And it might be worth more than we think. It might be worth a whole extra dice to roll. And so maybe we'll get an extra dice in a later story, and then it will be easier to come back and do arm wrestling a second time. But yeah. The amount of gold you're collecting now, the amount of food you're collecting now, it all seems fairly pointless. Because unless you carry that over to the next story, which that would be the only thought, is that perhaps you do carry over your golden food to the next story. Well, this has changed. Ooh, and I was skipping through the story too fast. So the first time we fought this, we were fighting just soldiers. Now we're fighting inflicted or zombie characters. And these definitely feel like they are new to Hand of Fate 2. The first touch of corruption brings forth the darkest elements of the victims. Infected enemies are feeble, causing them to become knocked down when health is low. Use finisher before they recover. So it's like the game is going to actively make me figure out what's the right button. Let's see, we can't just walk any further over to this way, so there's just like a zombie either on the ground that we need to fight, or there's a zombie that is running away for some reason. So the finisher is the right trigger, and that would probably prove very helpful. I don't think we took a single hit. Having spilled your enemy bloods, you search the bodies for anything useful. And so now we have a warrior's axe. And we gain some life. So what do we have equipped? Probably should just have the warrior's axe on equipped on easy. It is an odd imbalance in that if you get 2 pieces of equipment, the only correct 2 pieces of equipment you could get would be a sword and a shield in this run. Because if you get the axe, you're going to negate the shield. Always. Let's see. So we can ask about this, I guess, but I don't think it helps you much. And then I think you should watch the local go first. And then that increases your odds of huge success. We just got regular success. 50-50 odds of success or failure. We got failure. And at that point you can't do anything more.
You'll notice that my carriage does not stop for every distressed traveler along the way.
Let's see what happens if we refuse to help. Choose not to involve yourself in other people's problems and continue on your way. Interesting. So that just eliminates the possibility of getting extra food. And in this run, because I failed in Carnival, I have like 20 gold. And we now know that it doesn't matter how much gold you have. At the end, this all just turns into a fight. So unless there's some kind of carryover in the next event, it kind of doesn't matter what happens here. But I assume the next events are going to be a little bit longer. Although they can't get too long. I really don't want to end up spending like an hour just to get to a final boss in a run, even though it may get to that point. Now, we have struggled twice to try and defeat these enemies. Let's just do a finisher on anybody we can hit. Okay, so if I can just get a couple of hits on this guy, here's a finisher to take a massive amount of hits out. So there, between playing on easy and figuring out how to use the finishers, that's how you defeat a boss. And it feels like the game probably should have paused at some point and just let me do a finisher either on a sub-boss fight or on this first boss fight. You can see I got only down to 76 health and I have 8 food and no gold at the moment. But yeah, certainly is wasteful that we're at the 3rd episode when we really should be at the 2nd episode at this point. So Malaclypse scratches his chin thoughtfully. It seems you could do with someone savvy to help you navigate these tricky matters of diplomacy, like maybe killing everyone wasn't the best idea. Come, let's discuss our partnership over an ale or two. So, I do believe are going to get that floating coin now, which is effectively a chest, which will give us a card.
Welcome back to the game of life and
the cards we've gotten so far haven't actually shown up in this scenario. And I just got an achievement for the Fool. Which, yeah.
Well done. You have cleared the first challenge. And now we can move on to the next.
I really was, frankly, gonna have to just rage quit if there wasn't an easy mode. Like, I may have given it a 3rd try, but failing on the only available challenge that's supposed to be a tutorial challenge is pretty bad. Meanwhile, I just don't really foresee that there's that big of an audience of people who want to be really good at the action hack and slash part of this game and then want to be drowned out by the card and tabletop part of the game. If you wanted to play an action hack and slash game, there's plenty of those kinds of games available, and probably better programmed versions of those games. So we're getting both of these cards. It's not a selection. We get the Cardinal Blade, and on that we can see that there is some kind of evolution path on that, and the Bastion of Purification. And I wonder if we would have gotten different things had we fought different people at random. And then again, we don't have a choice here. We're getting all these. So we get the Market Thief, which has a reward on it. The Tarts, Pigs, and Exotic Lies. Tarts, Pies, and Exotic Lies, not pigs. Fork in the Road. The font that they're using here with the brown on brown is a little hard to read. And Arm Wrestling. So it does seem like at least Arm Wrestling is going to show up in later events. And so that is the deck building aspect of this game, is that as you move down the storyline, you get more cards that makes a more varied experience for the deck. The deck is a deck of events instead of a deck of actions or monsters. Yeah, mostly you would see monsters in that case, or heroes or something like that. When you think of something like Pokemon, almost all well, a lot of the Pokemon cards are Pokemon characters in your deck, and Pokemon is a trading card game, not a deck building game. Slight differences there. Even at that though, this deck building is quite weird. And then for befriending Malaclypse, which seemed like there was no way to avoid that, we get Malaclypse's Problem and the Trickster as a card. Music that's playing right here is a little upbeat. And so now it definitely is the case where we're being shown where this is going to go. And so at any point I guess we could go and do the Fool again, but we are instead going to do the Magician. And this is just naming every character in the major arcana of tarot cards, which tells you that there is roughly 13, maybe 18 levels in total until they're going to have to start making up things. Yeah, I'd say there's 13 major arcana cards.
Nothing here is coincidence.
With the
The answer
13th
to
card,
every
I
question
believe,
is in the
being
cards if you
either
but look.
death or the devil. So, and that almost certainly is going to be your final boss fight. So now we have new features once again, but sadly, we're talking over 2 hours into the game before I see it. We're going to rescue the mining emperor soldiers from a town plagued with corruption. We're going to see a growing scourge, which means be prepared to fight corrupted. And we're going to avoid the empire. You lose gold for every empire enemy you kill. Interesting. And so we have one companion counter card equipped. Let's see. And that is this guy. So he's just gonna follow us. Eventually we would unlock the orphan, which we get when we complete the hierophant, which is, hierophant is just an old word for pope or bishop or something like that. Complete 4 challenges for the shadow and complete 4 challenges for the to unlock the hunter. And these are probably all DLC characters. Now, I guess the idea is you would want these. So, I think you want any event that has a gem on it to start with. And then you probably want to see anything that was new also, just for your own reasons. So, we'll take, I guess, the old maiden. And I wonder if the game just won't let you start without these cards set. Let's see. There's a reward on this shield. And I would assume that some of these are items that you would... Let's see. Let's inspect this one. It's not really giving you stats on the items. So it seems like this is 18, this is 15 at the bottom there. This is 21, this is 15, this is 10. So these are items you can acquire on your journey, it says at the left. And then it also is pointing out in the lower left that there's a maximum of platinum and a maximum of brimstone cards you can have. So if I hit start now, too short. Yeah, you can't start that way. You have to include this. As you get more cards, and take note that encounter cards have a different background than companion cards than equipment cards. So they are different from the event cards. So you'd have like 4, maybe even more decks if you were to play this in the real world and as a deck building game. And that's one of the beautiful things about digital forms of card games, is that if they are nicely polished and programmed well, they can save you a lot of storage space and just table space that you would need to actually play it. Although you inherently in that benefit also lose the ability to play a deck building game in the real world with a group of friends. It's highly unlikely you would ever have a group of friends sitting around the TV playing this game, and it's not a game that really even is designed for multiple players, so it wouldn't work very well. tabletop simulator tries its best, I think, to match those two problems together and solve both of them. But that does still have a very digital feel to it, and I would say the vast majority of people who like tabletop gaming and like the experience of being around the table with their friends will start reading the dialogue
call
now.
To heroism. How many adventures start thus?
Now notice he adds cards there that you're going to have to interact with, and the layout now is
I have thought about
bigger.
Nothing but the game. I was defeated. It is true. I became complacent long before then. I thought I knew everything about the game and what it could be. Now you see before you the extent of my research. I have crafted this game anew.
We might as well listen to him talk, because he is probably in that dialogue giving us some backstory of what happened in the first game. Whispers from the west. Your conversation with the fur trader is interrupted as Malclips arrives in a flurry. The whispers speak of trouble at the edge of the Empire. The town in West End is suffering against the blight. Let's find out more about Westwind. Ask what makes Westwind special. Let's ask about enemy protection. Can we just ask everything? The small garrison is meant to be protecting the town, but apparently they are all either dead, missing, or drunk. That was about Empire protection. Let's ask about what makes it special. I've traveled far to escape the oppression of the Empire. Westwind gave me my freedom, and I intend to return the favor. Ask where Westwind is. Westwind sits on the outer edge of the Empire, while the Emperor focuses on the capital. Its nobles and merchants, those at the fringes, are neglected. Okay, so we can get a lot more backstory in that case, but it doesn't seem like that gave us anything helpful other than just backstory. Which I guess if you have to play this scenario a second time, or choose to play this scenario a second time, it's nice you can skip all of that. Feels all very RPG-esque to be able to ask all those questions. I'm seeing at the bottom left we are back up to 100 health, 5 food, and 10 gold. So having any excess didn't seem to really help any. We probably will still end up finishing a lot of these scenarios with excess gold and excess food, but it definitely shouldn't be a goal. Right. Return to the markets and ask if any traders are headed to West End. Might need an escort. There are 3 options. We could go with a stonemason, who maybe would give us a artifact, which we don't have any like rings or anything like that. We could go with a food wagon to get food, which seems like a more direct choice. Or we could go with a weaponsmith to get weapons, which we should also point out that we are starting with a shield we can't use and a either neglected sword or a villager's axe. And on easy mode, I don't think it really even matters what you have equipped. So let's just go with number 1 and see what the stonemason does. You hitch an uneventful ride with a stonemason. That gave us 15 gold. That's not really what I was expecting to get gold from a stonemason. I was expecting a ring, some kind of gem or something. You arrive at the town of West End. To defend the town, you'll need to locate any Empire soldiers as you can. As many Empire soldiers as you can before the Blight invades. So, we're trying to avoid killing, I think, the Empire soldiers. But
the Empire
maybe that's
reaches
not
too
the
far.
whole thing.
The North has gone from a loose collection of tribes to something to truly fear.
So, I guess between the two games, they're trying to create this bigger world in the backstory, but almost certainly that's going to fly over the head of most players. And certainly you're not going to expand a game like this to the point where it's like the deep lore of, say, Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series, where you have entire empires and species and backstory and history going on. So, strung up by the Northerners. Fight to free them, or pay to free them, or leave. I would be fighting 3 of Frost's to fight, and I think fighting is definitely the right move, particularly since we have a 100 health and we're going to be eating 1 food every time we move anyways to restore that health. One-handed weapons are recommended against Northerners. You can change equipment in the inventory, so we're getting some
Let us see
help.
if the mage can help you here.
There is a decent possibility now that the mage / trickster all of a sudden is just very, very helpful in casting spells or doing magic. So, Malclips is a magician, a jester, and a vagabond. When activated, Malclips casts a protective spell that can block a single hit. So that is left bump for the companion ability. Alright, so that's not going to be that helpful.
Else, I'll get a song out of this.
I mean, I think he's doing pretty well. Now, the thing I would point out here, I just got an achievement for completing combat under 15 seconds, is that your camera doesn't really work particularly well if they get behind you. You can tilt the camera a little bit, but it's not, there's no button for a fast 180 to see where the enemies are. So you kind of never want them to get behind you from that perspective. With the Northerners dead, you free the soldiers, you've gained 2 recruits. And interestingly, I somehow now have 105 life. So we buffed our life above 100. So no limitation there, I guess. There probably is achievements for having like 200 life, maybe having 20 or 30 food, maybe having 50 or 100 gold.
They place themselves in these dire positions, and then expect a hero to come rescue them when things become too much.
Now, one thing that's weird about this is I wouldn't be surprised if most of the sayings that the narrator says are only used 2 or 3 times in the entire game because of these different scenarios. Of course, there is now an infinite mode, so he could be prompted to say certain things infinitely, but what actually would trigger those comments are almost certainly going to be only 1 or 2 of these event cards. So it's just going to come down to how many times you land on the Stranded Noble cards. And I suspect that the banner at the top right of the Stranded Noble card with the like mark of corruption it looks like on it might be some like DLC indicator, or it might mean that the cards are going to evolve in some way because of DLC. While patrolling the outskirts of West End, you hear a clash of steel and the unmistakable groan of corruption. Your investigation leads to the distressed nobleman perched on the roof of his carriage. Thank the gods, I was heading to the tea with Duke Gilbert when we were ambushed. My footman left me here to fight them off, but this brawl has now disappeared. The brawl has now disappeared into the forest. The noble appears fearfully at the tree line. If you stay here and protect me, I can pay. So we're probably trying to save soldiers. So let's go after the soldiers and not just stay here and protect a noble who seems not to actually be under immediate threat of danger. It does seem like to me, though, that in the minor arcania, you can have like 13 cards, and that is not including the ace or the page, the jack, the queen, and the king. There isn't
I could not
actually
be more pleased to train you.
I think an ace.
You have every skill Callus lacked. Patience.
Well, there is an ace.
Delicacy,
Ace is one, but
tact, skill.
so yeah, that instead of 12 maximum soldiers, we could have like 13 if you were to believe the major arcana, and 13 or more, and I just don't believe that's the case. I think we're going to run to a just CPU maximum of having maybe 6 soldiers that we can save and that would fight along our sides, which would mean 8 people on our side and potentially 8 people on the other side. And this game is laggy even when you're fighting just like 4 people on both sides. So yes, we do want to go after the soldiers, but I just don't think we're ever going to see a 13 of blight or a 13 of steel. Rush into the forest and quickly encounter a squad of Empire soldiers battling the corrupted. And interesting, it didn't prompt me to change my weapons. So.
I see and stop! Fate and fame!
With the finishers, you can finish these characters very quickly. And I don't think we're really going to run into
Like a compass, it indicates the truth of all directions.
It doesn't feel like you're really going to have an infected mechanic where the steel soldiers that we're fighting with are going to become corrupted and start fighting for the other side. By doing this, we now can get this Cardinal Blade card, and it says as a shard, activate your weapon ability 10 times to unlock the shard. Interesting. So we want to do this. We want to get this and equip this. And so we'll do that very quickly. Let's see. With the corrupted dispatches, the soldiers turn to you. I'm sure we could have handled it, but thanks for stepping in. I guess we'll have to go back to escorting His Highness Sir Quivering Blanket of Mumsy off to the palace. Let's see. Offer them gold to protect West End. Appeal their sense of duty to defend West End. Well, I kind of want to keep the Cardinal Blade equipped. And so, on that, I probably don't need gold as much. So let's just offer them gold. You get a bonus dice for each soldier you saved. Alright, we definitely want that. So, we spend 20 gold, and we now have four soldiers. We may not have a lot of opportunity
Commerce
to gain
thrives
food.
in even the most unusual of locations.
Shopkeeper nods as you enter. Adventure, how's the world out there? So let's go ahead and sell equipment. We can only sell that. I'm not going to sell that. We don't have enough to buy food. And we can buy the shield, and then that would just be it for gold. Let's see what... Defend 30 attacks from enemies to unlock this token.
Well, that may help you on the road ahead.
So now we are at 0 gold, which we kind of know we need gold to buy more soldiers.
Life itself in exchange for life.
As you hike through the mountains, one fine day you come across an injured traveler. Though he's clearly deeply wounded and barely moving, you sense something disturbing about the cloaked figure and approach with caution. You, mortal, come here, the creature commands, his voice rasping. I need substance to heal myself, and you will provide it. You draw your weapon, and the beast weakly raises an arm to defend itself. Spare me, and I'll make it worth your while. Should we ask how, or should we just accept his offer? Is there harm in asking? I don't think so. 3 days ago I happened to feast upon one of your kind, a holy man of some nature, I believe, who could no doubt cure you of your wounds. Grant me a pittance of your blood to restore my strength, and I swear I shall bring him to you. Okay, so he wants blood, which we have an abundance of, so accept his offer. You lower your blade, and he suddenly lunges at you. 30% of our life is gone, that's not. The creature continues to draw blood from your arm. Let's wait. Another 30% of life. Hey, let's do it again. They can't do that again, though. So, yeah, we would have needed a lot of life. We probably could do it again, and we'd just be at a very, very low amount of life. Yeah, let's risk it. One more time. Well, 30%, I guess, of your remaining life. So we can just keep on pushing this. And the hope here would be that he is telling the truth and he'd actually heal you. Like, we really can't go much further. One more time. Yeah, and now we're at 9 out of 105. He takes a moment to regain his composure. He will not regret this. I would have recovered my full strength in time, I've no doubt, but I admit you've been a boon to me this night. He gestures at the darkness, saying, the humans who dared to think they could best me in combat lie fallen in a clearing to the south. Their ambition was as foolish as their deaths were quick, but perhaps they had something that would be of use to you. The shadows seem to gather around this person until nothing remains. The dealer has added an encounter card to the deck. So obviously that guy was a vampire. A debt repaid. You set out with a flaming torch and soon arrive at the scene of slaughter. A dozen armed men have been recently butchered here. Among the remains you find no decent equipment, just the tools of farmers and provincial soldiers. As you leave the carnage, you step on a blade hidden in the shadows of the grass.
To the victor go the spoils. Do not wield a weapon you do not wish to see turned against you one day.
And so we have a knight's sword here, which I assume... I don't want to equip it because it's weaker than what we have, but I assume it is going to be added to potential cards we will get later. So we'll say no, but you just get the card regardless. And we got that coin, but the thing I was hoping for was to be healed completely back together.
Here we begin to see one of the small ways I've changed the game. Each challenge differs both in their rules and their objectives. Even those cards, which were once the stairs, now vary per challenge, as you will see.
So we have 14 health and 3 food, and I caused this failure on myself if I am going to fail. The western tower bell chimes feverishly, the city crier bellows. There's corrupted inside the town. They've broken through the sewers into Loose Lane. The brave soldiers have gone down there to sort it out. We arrive to find Westwind's few remaining soldiers huddled at the entrance of the poorest area, Loose Lane. We cannot let the corrupted spread. For the good of the town, we must dispose of anyone who's been tainted, even a little. Okay. And so we're going to have 4 blight, and I have 4 soldiers, and I'm going to join the soldiers and then just try to stay back. Seems like we only really are going to have 3 soldiers fight for us, though. So the number of soldiers recruited changes your dice rolls, but we haven't done any dice rolls. And instead we only have 3 soldiers for some different reason to actually fight for us. That may just be the maximum, too. It may very well be the case that all you can do is is 5 people on your side, prepared for violence in every major direction.
I hope this works.
So we're just gonna kind of let them fight. They're not really doing much, though. Let's see if we can get at least 1 finisher. Well, that is a heck of a finisher. I like that. With the corrupted threat removed, you ensured that these soldiers survive to aid the town's defense. You gain 3 recruits. So theoretically, if we need to roll the dice, we're going to have like 7 dice to roll. That is quite a lot. The soldiers help you scavenge with what you can from the remains of the poor souls taken by the corruption. So particularly if I ran into the arm wrestling section. Now, if I'm rolling 7 dice, I'm almost certainly going to win. 1 equipment for 2. We could go with just this one.
A shield in more ways than one.
But fighting corrupted with the shield is not actually going to be that helpful. Because you're just not going to defend. And we can see in this section now there's only 7 spots to step on, so even if I ate 7 out of the 10 food I have, that's only going to get me about 35, I would say. I think it's about 35 health, so we're going to have to be very careful going forward. But we at least didn't completely lose there. And I will be left questioning if the vampire needed to suck, say, all of your life and turn you into a vampire, and maybe that would have unlocked a secret vampire path, or maybe he needed to suck massive amounts of blood, like 200 or 200 plus, which seems like that is feasible, or maybe I just wasted a bunch of life and it would have never given me a different outcome. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Thanks.